while we wait for others, if there's anything you need to do to support yourself, any movement, a drink of water, I invite you to offer that to yourself. So even as we wait, just notice how you relate to this moment of waiting. The question I often come back to is, who are we when we're waiting? It often tends to be such a profound question. So I invite you to bring that into your life from moment to moment, to notice who you are while you're waiting for the things in the grocery store, while you're stuck in traffic, waiting for a meeting to start. It often lends itself to be a wonderful place of reflection. All right, so it's 31 past the hour, so why don't we go ahead and get started, and anyone else who's able to join us could do so on their own accord. So good morning and welcome to this Tuesday morning gathering brought to you by Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare and Tufts Health Plan. My name is Abraham Dejene. I'm a mindfulness instructor, therapist in training, and I've been doing these moments, these mind moments, for the past year or so, so it's nice to see some familiar names as well. But often I like to start with a practice just as an opportunity for us to transition maybe from doing to being. And then we'll have a theme, which today is around surrender. And then we'll have a guided reflection around surrender. So with that said, I really want to invite you now, as we come into this opening practice, to find a posture that is kind to your body. So you may have a normal way you sit or a habitual way you sit. But in this moment, just check in with the body. What would support me? Do I need the backrest? Do I need to sit upright? Maybe it's lying down where you are, or even standing up. So just take a moment to notice, what does your body need? So whether it's sitting on the floor, the cushion, the chair, or standing, give yourself a moment to arrive. And if you feel safe and comfortable, even closing the eyes completely, or lowering the gaze as you begin to turn your awareness inwards. So much of our waking hours are directly related to what's happening outside of us. But here in this moment, I invite you to really turn this awareness inwards. And this awareness might bring awareness of sensations in the body. You may become aware of thoughts, emotions. So while allowing for your awareness to be vast, just notice whatever captures your attention. And whatever that may be, to see if you can hold it lightly with compassion and kindness. And when we begin to become aware of how we are, there's often judgment or criticism that comes with it. But seeing in this moment, there's a possibility to meet yourself with kindness. To give yourself permission to be just as you are, nothing to change, nothing to fix. It's allowing the surrendering to this moment. Even as you set the intention to allow this moment to be just as it is, you may still notice some energy pulling you towards wanting things to be different, to be better, to be how they used to be. And every time you notice these thoughts, these patterns of wanting things to be different, just sit and invite your awareness to come back to the body, to the breath, to once again to reconnect with how it is. And in this kind and curious awareness that's being cultivated, you may also notice the impermanence of this moment. Maybe it intensifies or becomes more subtle or dissipates altogether, whatever is here for you. So bring this kind curiosity to how each moment is unfolding. Letting go of that I know mind and opening to what is. And wherever you may be now on this journey, I invite you to begin to narrow this awareness to a single anchor point. And for you, that may be the breath. For others, it may be a sensation in the body, or even sound, possibly. So begin to narrow this awareness to a single anchor point. Then allow for your awareness to gently rest there. Noticing the quality of this anchor. If it's the breath, you may notice the depth, the shallowness, the consistency of it, or lack thereof. And if it's the body, you may notice dull, aching, maybe a physical sensation intensifies or becomes dull over time. So get really curious. From this place of awareness, I want you to silently ask yourself, what is my relationship to surrender? And notice what comes up for you. What is my relationship to surrender? So notice any thoughts, emotions, feelings, sensations in the body. So just notice how you're responding to this inquiry. What is my relationship to surrender? Notice if there's any shame, judgment being associated to this moment. And if so, is there a possibility to hold it with kindness, whatever it is, whatever your relationship may be? Once again, an allowing, making space for whatever is here. And seeing if there's a possibility to capture your relationship to surrender. It may be a word, a phrase, a sentence. Understanding that words are limited, but see if there's maybe a word or phrase that can capture for you what this relationship is. And then whenever you're ready, gently returning back to your anchor. But there's no rush here. So if you need to explore further, I encourage you to do so. But whenever you're ready, coming back to the anchor of the breath or the body. And eventually, as you begin this transition, bring in some kind movement. Maybe it's the fingers, the toes, possibly the shoulders, the neck. So bringing more energy back into the body. Then eventually re-engaging the eyes if they were closed. And slowly bringing your awareness back into this shared space. If there's any additional movement your body may need, I really encourage you to bring that kindness to yourself. Maybe you need to stand up and stretch. Maybe it's something else for you. But here's another opportunity in this moment to offer kindness. So in that guided reflection towards the end, I ask you to see if there's maybe a word or a phrase that best captures your relationship to surrender. And of course, everything's optional, but if you feel inspired to share, maybe a word or a phrase, if you want to type into a chat, don't hit enter yet. I like when they all come in at the same time, like a waterfall. But see if there's maybe a word or a phrase that captures your relationship to surrender. And if you want to take maybe the next 10 to 15 seconds to go ahead and type into the chat, don't hit enter yet. And you're welcome to chat it directly only to me or chat it to everyone, whatever you feel comfortable, or not chat at all. It's all optional. It's always nice to see how different people work with surrender and maybe how seeing others work with surrender maybe sparks something in you, maybe sparks something in me. So now, whenever you're ready, go ahead and share what your relationship is. I'll let a few come in and I'll bring these words into our shared space. Fear, at peace, uncomfortable, like welcoming a long lost good friend, internal peace, accepting the unknown, today, release of grief. Yeah, just the different ways each of us relate to surrendering. For some of us, it brings peace. To others, it is accompanied with fear. And this is not to create a hierarchy of our relationship with surrender, but just an opportunity to recognize it. And often the recognition alone offers us some space to work with it. So today, in the second half of our time together, I'll guide us through a short guided reflection around surrender. And often what I bring into a space, into the work I do, is really my own life and my lived experience. So the word surrender has been something that's been at the forefront of my lived experience recently as I've been dealing with a challenging family situation where I only got to this place of surrender only after trying and exhausting every other possible way. Then finally realizing I actually had zero control over the situation. And there was really nothing left to do for me but to surrender to it. And then just the recognition of how that changed my relationship. So what was happening, it was still happening. But all of a sudden, the surrendering to it allowed me to have space just to, one, to get some clarity around it, and then also to hold it a little bit lightly. So of course, it's still something heavy I'm working through, but there's a shift I feel around allowing the surrender to hold it as well. So when I guide us through this guided reflection, maybe there is something that you want to surrender to. Maybe there's something in your life that you're constantly been working through. So whatever is coming up for you, I really encourage you to hold it lightly. So with that said, I invite you all to find a comfortable, whether it's an upright posture of sitting or even standing, or maybe you need to lay down if you're in a position to do so. But really want you to choose a kind posture for the body. And if you're in a position to do so, I invite you to lower the gaze or close the eyes. And as we begin, I invite you to take a moment to reflect on what it means to surrender to the present moment. You know, often when we hear the word surrender, it can sound like giving up as though we're losing or letting go of control. But in truth, surrendering is really an act of courage, a trust. It's really about softening our resistance to what is and allowing ourselves to be fully with the moment as it is, just as it's unfolding. You may even imagine it as surrendering, loosening a grip on a rope that you've been holding tightly. And it's not because the rope is no longer important, because you may realize holding on to that rope so tightly is actually quite exhausting. So when we surrender, we're not saying this moment is easy or it's not important, but we're simply saying, I'm here and open to whatever is unfolding. So much of us spend our lives resisting the present moment, whether there's resisting emotions or challenges. So what could it be like to actually allow whatever is here to be here? So bringing that energy into this guided reflection, the energy of allowing, surrendering to this moment. So come into the body, however the body is. So even begin surrendering to how the body is, not wanting to be different, not wanting to be less painful or less at just whatever the body is, can you surrender to? Sometimes even the surrendering allows for softening. You may notice the shoulders fall away or the jaws loosen. So what is it like to let the body be just as it is? It doesn't have to be stronger or taller, skinnier or bigger. How it is just is. So continue this energy, this awareness of surrendering. There's discomfort in the knee. Is there a possibility to surrender to it? There's tightness or discomfort in the back. Is there a possibility to surrender to? And of course, if you need to move or shift, that's always a possibility. But seeing if there's a possibility, a quality of surrendering, and how does that maybe change the quality of the sensation? Now, in your next exhale, shifting your attention to any emotions that may be present. And seeing once again, is there this quality, this possibility of surrendering to? There is joy, sadness, anxiety, agitation, restlessness. Whatever it is, can you allow it without aversion or attachment? You may notice the impermanence of it, the ever-changing quality moment to moment. And as always, at any point in time, anything feels too intense, you're always in choice to pivot away, to open the eyes. But to the capacity you have, can you surrender, even if it's unpleasant? On your next exhale, shifting your attention to thoughts. So notice whatever thoughts come into awareness. See that there's a possibility just to allow them to be here. You don't have to resolve them. You don't have to fix anything. It's just a thought. And it may stay for a while, and another one comes into awareness. Notice when you're caught up in these thoughts, maybe creating narrative stories around it, judgment. When you notice it, see if you could also surrender to that. Oh, there's judgment. There's another story. Well, that's what's here now. So whatever comes up, the moment you notice it, can I bring the quality of surrender to that as well? And now I invite you to expand this awareness to the entirety, the quality of your entire being. So this could be your physical, your emotional, your mental, and the quality of your entire being. As you bring that awareness, however that is being presented to you, can you now surrender to that as well? The grief, the sadness, the joy, the fatigue, the agitation, the overwhelm. However, this quality of your being is being experienced, can you also surrender to that? Whatever is here, this possibility to meet it with kindness, compassion. Whenever you notice the quality of resistance come into your awareness, surrender to that as well. Oh, there's the resistance. Can I meet that as well? I don't have to push it away. And whenever this exploration feels complete for you, and if it doesn't, stay with it a little bit longer. But whenever it's complete for you, coming back to an anchor, whether it's the breath, sensation in the body, but begin to refine, to narrow this anchor point, this attention to an anchor point. And then allowing yourself to rest there momentarily. Before, whenever you're ready, begin to transition by bringing some gentle movement to the body, seeing there's a way to meet it kindly rather than habitually. Maybe even giving yourself a gentle self massage in places that may be tender. And as you reflect in those 10 minutes of reflecting, being in touch with surrender, however you came in touch with it, maybe you did it. Maybe it was completely resistance the whole time for you, and that's okay. Just anyone who feels called to share through the chat, how'd you meet resistance? How'd you meet surrender? What'd you notice? Maybe any insight, any clarity, or maybe there's more confusion than before we began today, and that's okay too. But anyone that feels inspired to share, What did you notice through that guided reflection? Share as much or as little as you feel comfortable. It's always nice to see how we all relate to surrender, and maybe even the challenges you may have may open the door up to you, to me, to someone else in the group. That we all master the art of surrender this morning. Relaxation, letting go and accepting change, hope followed by relief. You know, this act of surrender to me, it's an ongoing process. It's a journey. At least I'll speak for myself from my own perspective, where most of my life has been met with resistance of me trying to push through things. So this act of surrendering often feels quite foreign and even unnatural and not organic sometimes. So for me, it's easy to default back to resistance. So this idea of surrendering is still often quite foreign for me, even this pathway, this far down my journey. So I really invite each one of you to bring grace and kindness and patience to yourself. If this is a path you choose to explore, to reflect, oh, there's the resistance. Can I bring surrender instead? Oh, there's this thing. I don't like it. I don't like how it's unfolding. Maybe it's within my control. Maybe it's not. So really, this quality of surrender has this capacity to change how we relate to the moment. Not that the moment is changing, because the external moment may never change, but how we relate to it, there's the capacity we have. And through mindfulness and through awareness and surrender, I find that to be supportive for me. And as I look through the chat, Heather, I realize I have a lot of resistance. When I have generally surrendered in the past, my life has pivoted for the better. Yeah. That capacity to shift just by allowing things to unfold. Often, sometimes it's counterintuitive. There's this idea like, I need to do more, I need to do more, I need to push back, I need to act in order to change things. And sometimes it's actually the non-doing quality that allows things to unfold naturally and organically. More spaciousness and kind feeling towards myself and however things unfold today. Thank you, Janice. And I have a true version to surrender. So today's focus meditation was perfect, especially this time of the year. Thank you. And yeah, as we go into the end of 2024, and even as you reflect back on how this year's unfolded with all the ups and downs you may have encountered, and maybe how you met those places with resistance. Oh, I didn't want it to change. I don't want to give up this job. I don't want this partnership to end, or I don't want this relationship to start. So whatever you resisted this year, whether it was the election, politics, your own personal life, like, is there a possibility to surrender to it, to give yourself some space, some clarity to like, oh, that's what's here right now. It may change in the next moment, but in this moment, it's just what it is. So that possibility of surrendering. So I invite you to whatever degree you can to this upcoming week, to the rest of the year as you begin 2025, to bring this quality of surrender with you. And with that, I wish you a happy new year and hope you're able to reflect on this year in a way that supports you moving forward to the new year. I look forward to seeing you in 2025. You're welcome, Janice. And I wish you all you're welcome, Paula. A happy new year. You're welcome, man. You're welcome, David. Happy New Year as well. We'll end the session now. Have a good rest of your morning.